Hashtag my wife divorced me on Christmas after running off with the neighbor, but I knew everything. You know, they say Christmas is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year. Well, let me tell you about the Christmas that changed my life forever and how sometimes the worst betrayal can lead to the best revenge you never planned. My name is Michael Roberts, and I'm a 42-year-old software engineer living in suburban Atlanta, Georgia. For 14 years, I thought I had the perfect marriage with my wife, Rebecca. She was a marketing executive at a mid-sized firm downtown, ambitious, stunning, and what I believed to be completely devoted to our life together. We had a beautiful colonial house in Marietta, 2 luxury cars in the driveway, a healthy investment portfolio, and what looked like the American dream from the outside. But as I learned the hard way, sometimes the people closest to you are the ones planning your downfall right under your nose. It all started about 8 months before that fateful Christmas morning. I began noticing small changes in Rebecca's behavior that, at first, I attributed to work stress. She was staying late at the office more frequently, claiming she had important campaigns that required her immediate attention. Her phone, which used to sit casually on our granite kitchen counter while we had dinner, suddenly became a permanent extension of her hand. When I'd walk into our living room while she was texting, she'd quickly flip it face down or slide it into her designer purse with a nervous laugh. The first real red flag came in late April. I was doing laundry in our spacious master bedroom and found a receipt in her blazer pocket from Morton's Steakhouse downtown, an expensive place we'd only been to twice for special occasions. When I asked her about it, she said it was a business dinner with a potential client. The receipt showed dinner for 2, with a bottle of wine that cost more than what we usually spend on groceries for a week, plus dessert and cocktails. The total was over $300. Must be a really important client, I said, trying to keep my tone light. Oh, you know how these corporate types are, she replied, not looking up from her laptop. They expect to be wined and dined before they'll even consider signing with us. I wanted to believe her. God, how desperately I wanted to believe her. The second red flag came in June. Rebecca had always been meticulous about her appearance, but suddenly she was going to the gym every single day after work, buying new clothes constantly, and spending what seemed like hours getting ready in the morning. She'd upgraded her entire wardrobe, started wearing perfumes I'd never smelled before, and even changed her hairstyle to something more youthful and flirty. "You look amazing, babe," I told her one morning as she stood in front of our bedroom mirror, applying makeup with the precision of a professional artist. "Thanks," she said, but she didn't turn around to look at me. There was something cold in her voice that I'd never heard before. Then there was our neighbor, Jake Martinez. Jake had moved in next door about a year earlier after his divorce was finalized. He was a personal trainer and part-time construction worker, the kind of guy who seemed to always be working on his house shirtless whenever Rebecca happened to be in our front yard. He was younger than me, probably mid-30s, with the kind of muscular build that comes from actual physical labor, not just gym sessions. At first, I thought Rebecca was just being neighborly when she'd chat with him over the fence about lawn care or when she'd wave to him from our driveway. But by summer, I noticed she was finding more and more excuses to be outside when he was around. She'd suddenly decide our flower beds needed immediate attention, or that our mailbox required urgent inspection, always when Jake was visible. Jake mentioned he's having trouble with his sprinkler system, she told me one evening in July. I thought maybe you could help him out this weekend. "Since when do you care about Jake's sprinkler system?" I asked. "I'm just trying to be a good neighbor, Michael." "What's wrong with that?" What was wrong with it was the way her face lit up when she talked about him. What was wrong with it was how she'd position herself by our kitchen window, which had a perfect view of his backyard, while drinking her morning coffee. What was wrong with it was that she'd started asking me to work late or run errands on weekends, always with suggestions that would keep me away from the house for hours. But I'm a software engineer. I'm trained to notice patterns, to debug problems, to dig until I find the source of the error. So I started paying closer attention. In August, I installed a small security camera system around our house, telling Rebecca it was for protection after a few break-ins in the neighborhood. What I didn't tell her was that one of those cameras had a perfect view of Jake's driveway and front door. I also didn't mention that I'd installed an app on my phone that would send me alerts whenever motion was detected. That's when I started seeing the pattern clearly. On days when Rebecca claimed to be working late, Jake's car would be gone too. When she said she was going to the gym, his truck would leave around the same time and return just minutes before she did. They were coordinating their schedules, and they thought they were being clever about it. The breakthrough came in September. Rebecca announced she was going to a weekend marketing conference in Savannah. She'd be gone from Friday afternoon until Sunday evening. She seemed excited about it, more excited than I'd seen her about work in years. "It's going to be intensive," she said, packing her weekend bag with clothes I'd never seen before. "Probably won't have much time to call, but I'll text you when I can." 20 minutes after she left for the airport, Jake loaded a weekend bag into his truck and drove off. I didn't need to be a detective to figure out where he was going. That weekend, while my wife was supposedly learning about digital marketing strategies, I decided to do some investigating of my own. I noticed Rebecca had been unusually secretive about her computer lately, always closing the laptop when I walked into the room. But she'd forgotten that we shared a cloud storage account for our family photos and documents. Well, I found there broke my heart and opened my eyes at the same time. There were hundreds of text messages that had been automatically backed up from her phone. Messages that started innocent enough in March. Just friendly neighbor chat about garbage pickup schedules and local events. But by May, they'd escalated to lengthy conversations about their days, their feelings, their dreams. By June, the messages had turned romantic. By July, they were explicit. I sat in my home office, reading message after message that detailed their affair with graphic clarity. They talked about how exciting it was to sneak around, how boring I was compared to Jake's adventurous spirit, how they couldn't wait to be together openly. Rebecca described our marriage as comfortable but passionless, and said she felt more alive with Jake than she had in years. The messages revealed that their weekend in Savannah wasn't their first trip together. They'd been taking long lunch breaks at his apartment, meeting at hotels across town, and even spending time together in our house when I was at work. The thought of them in our bed, in our home, made me physically sick. But what really got my attention were the messages about money. Rebecca had been slowly draining our joint savings account, transferring money to a personal account I didn't know existed. She'd also been lying about her salary for months, telling me her commission checks were smaller than they actually were while secretly stashing the difference. Jake, apparently, had expensive tastes. The messages showed Rebecca paying for their hotel rooms, expensive dinners, and even a weekend trip to Miami that she'd told me was a business conference. But the worst part was reading their plans for the future. They were planning to run away together after Christmas, taking as much money as they could get their hands on. Jake had convinced her to secretly put our house on the market through a different real estate agent in her company. They were planning to split the proceeds and start a new life together in Florida, where Jake had family. They'd already picked out a condo near Tampa Bay. Rebecca had been house hunting online for weeks, and Jake had been encouraging her to take out credit cards in my name to fund their escape plan. She'd already applied for 2 cards without my knowledge, using my information and our joint bank statements as proof of income. I printed everything, every message, every document, every photo they'd sent each other. I organized it all in folders with dates and timestamps. Then I called my lawyer. Marcus Webb had been our family attorney for years, helping us with the house purchase and updating our wills. He was a no-nonsense guy in his 60s who'd seen every kind of marital disaster you could imagine. "Michael," he said when I walked into his office the following Monday with 3 binders full of evidence. "I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've rarely seen someone come this prepared. You sure you're not in the wrong profession?" "I'm thorough," I said. "It's what I do for a living." Marcus flipped through the evidence with growing amazement. "This is a prosecuting attorney's dream. We've got adultery, financial fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit theft. Your wife and her boyfriend have essentially documented their own crimes. What are my options?" Well, Georgia is a no-fault divorce state, but this level of financial deception changes everything. We can go after her for the money she's stolen. We can seek criminal charges for the identity theft, and we can make sure you keep the house and most of your assets. The adultery helps our case for alimony, assuming you want it. "I don't want her money," I said. "I just want to make sure she doesn't get mine." That, my friend, is definitely doable. Marcus recommended a private investigator named Carol Chun, a former police detective who specialized in infidelity cases. Within 2 weeks, Carol had documented dozens of instances of Rebecca and Jake together, complete with photos, video footage, and timestamps that correlated perfectly with the lies Rebecca had told me about her whereabouts. "Your wife is either very arrogant or very stupid," Carol told me as she showed me video of Rebecca and Jake entering a hotel together on a Tuesday afternoon when she told me she was in client meetings. "They make no effort to hide what they're doing. She thinks I'm clueless," I said. "She's always seen me as the boring, predictable husband who works too much and doesn't pay attention." Well, that's about to work in your favor. Throughout October and November, I continued documenting everything while acting like nothing had changed. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, pretending to be the same trusting husband while watching my wife plan my financial destruction. Every kiss goodnight felt like a betrayal. Every "I love you" felt like a lie. Every time she claimed to be working late, I knew she was with him. But I also started protecting myself. I moved money from our joint accounts into a personal account that Rebecca couldn't access. I changed the passwords on all our shared financial accounts. I contacted our credit card companies and put fraud alerts on both our names. I even hired a forensic accountant to trace exactly how much money Rebecca had stolen. The total was staggering. Over $67,000 over 8 months. Money that should have gone toward our retirement, money from bonuses she'd lied about, money from a small inheritance from my grandmother that she'd diverted to her secret account. As December approached, Rebecca became more excited and more careless. The text messages between her and Jake revealed that they were planning to tell me about the divorce on Christmas morning, after I'd given her whatever expensive gift I'd bought. They thought it would be poetic justice, taking my Christmas gift and then destroying my life on the same day. Jake had even joked in one message, "Open presents, drop the bomb, pack the car, and drive to our new life. Merry Christmas to us." They had no idea that I was planning my own surprise. On December 15th, Marcus filed the divorce papers. But instead of serving them to Rebecca immediately, we waited. We wanted her to go through with Christmas morning, wanted to let her show her true colors completely before revealing her hand. On December 23rd, Carol provided me with photos of Rebecca and Jake shopping together for luggage at a mall across town. They were laughing, holding hands, acting like a couple on vacation. Rebecca had told me she was having a last-minute gift wrapping party with her co-workers. Christmas Eve was surreal. Rebecca was in such a good mood, humming Christmas carols and baking cookies like she was starring in a holiday movie. She kept checking her phone and smiling, obviously texting with Jake about their plans. She even suggested we have a nice romantic dinner, just the two of us. "This might be our last quiet Christmas together for a while," she said, lighting candles on our dining room table. I wanted to be special. The irony was overwhelming. Here she was, trying to create a perfect final memory before destroying our marriage, completely unaware that I knew everything. "You seem really happy lately," I said over dinner. "Work must be going well." "Oh, the holidays are always busy in marketing," she said, not meeting my eyes. "But I'm excited about the new year. I think it's going to bring a lot of changes." "Changes can be good," I agreed, "as long as they're honest changes." Something in my tone must have caught her attention because she looked at me sharply for a moment. But then her phone buzzed with a text, and she was distracted again. Christmas morning arrived gray and cold, with a light snow beginning to fall outside our kitchen window. Rebecca was up early, making coffee and setting out the cinnamon rolls she'd prepared the night before. She seemed nervous but excited, like someone about to board a plane for a long-awaited vacation. "Merry Christmas, honey," she said, giving me a kiss that felt hollow and rehearsed. "Should we open presents?" We sat in our living room, surrounded by the Christmas decorations we'd put up together just weeks earlier. The tree we'd picked out at the local farm, the stockings her mother had made for us years ago, the collection of ornaments from every Christmas of our marriage. It all felt like a museum display of a life that was about to become history. I'd bought Rebecca an expensive necklace, something I'd picked out months earlier when I still believed we had a future together. She opened it with appropriate enthusiasm, even putting it on and admiring herself in the mirror. "It's beautiful, Michael. Thank you so much." Then she handed me my gift, a a watch I'd mentioned wanting earlier in the year. It was thoughtful, expensive, and probably paid for with money she'd stolen from our accounts. "Your turn," she said, settling back on the couch with her coffee mug. There was something different in her voice now, a tension that hadn't been there moments earlier. "Actually," I said, reaching behind the tree for a gift bag I'd hidden there, "I have one more present for you." Her face lit up with genuine surprise. "Michael, we didn't have to." "Oh, but I did," I said, handing her the bag. "This one's really special. I think it's going to change everything." Rebecca opened the bag and pulled out a manila envelope. Her smile faltered as she saw her name written on the front in legal lettering. "What is this?" she asked, though something in her voice suggested she was beginning to understand. "Divorce papers," I said calmly. "Along with evidence of your affair with Jake Martinez, documentation of the $67,000 you've stolen from our accounts, and charges for identity theft related to the credit cards you opened in my name." The color drained from Rebecca's face so quickly I thought she might faint. Her hands were shaking as she pulled the papers from the envelope, and I watched her eyes scan the legal documents that laid out everything I knew. "Michael, I can explain." "Can you?" I interrupted. "Can you explain 8 months of lying? Can you explain stealing money from our retirement fund to pay for hotel rooms with Jake? Can you explain putting our house on the market behind my back? Can you explain applying for credit cards in my name?" She was crying now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of panic, the tears of someone who'd been caught and was desperately looking for an escape route. "How did you?" she started, then stopped herself. "How did I find out?" "Rebecca, I'm a software engineer. I debug problems for a living. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the patterns? The late nights that coincided with Jake's absences? The mysterious business trips that aligned perfectly with his schedule? The sudden interest in fitness and new clothes?" I pulled out my phone and showed her one of Carol's photos. Rebecca and Jake kissing in the parking lot of a hotel I'd never heard of. "You weren't as careful as you thought you were." Rebecca collapsed back onto the couch, the divorce papers scattered around her like fallen leaves. "What do you want?" she whispered. "I want you out of my house by tonight," I said. "I want you to return every penny you stole, plus interest. And I want you to know that if you try to contest this divorce or make any claims on property you helped plan to steal, I will pursue criminal charges that will land both you and Jake in prison." "We never meant for it to happen this way," she said, but the words sounded hollow, even to her. "Really? Because according to your text messages, you meant for it to happen exactly this way. The only thing you didn't plan on was getting caught." As if on cue, there was a knock at our front door. Rebecca's head snapped up with hope, probably thinking it was Jake coming to rescue her. Instead, it was Carol Chun with a sheriff's deputy, there to serve additional papers and ensure Rebecca left the premises peacefully. "Mrs. Roberts," Carol said professionally, "you need to gather your personal belongings and vacate the property. You have 2 hours." Rebecca looked at me with something that might have been hatred or might have been regret. 14 years, Michael. 14 years of marriage, and you're throwing it all away over a mistake. "I'm not throwing anything away," I said quietly. "You already threw it away months ago. I'm just cleaning up the mess." She went upstairs to pack, and I could hear her on the phone, presumably with Jake, her voice getting more and more hysterical as she tried to explain what had happened. Apparently, their romantic Christmas getaway had just become a desperate escape plan. 2 hours later, Rebecca loaded her suitcases into her car and drove away. She paused at the end of our driveway and looked back at the house. Our house, the life we'd built together, the future she'd chosen to destroy. Then she drove toward Jake's house, toward whatever uncertain future awaited them. I stood in my doorway, watching her tail lights disappear into the snowy evening, and felt something I hadn't expected: relief. For the first time in months, I didn't have to pretend anymore. I didn't have to act like I trusted her, didn't have to smile when she lied to my face, didn't have to play the role of the oblivious husband. The house felt different that night, bigger somehow, but also more peaceful. I made myself a simple dinner, opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a special occasion, and sat by the Christmas tree, reading through all the legal documents that would dissolve my marriage and protect my future. Marcus called to check on me around 8 o'clock. "How are you holding up, Michael?" "Surprisingly well. I said. It's strange. I thought I'd be devastated, but mostly I just feel free. That's normal, he said. You've been living with this betrayal for months. The actual divorce is just making it official. The next few weeks brought a series of revelations that showed just how deep Rebecca and Jake's deception had gone. The forensic accountant discovered that Rebecca had been planning this for over a year, slowly shifting money and building her secret nest egg long before I'd noticed anything suspicious. Jake, it turned out, had been through this before. His previous divorce had ended similarly, with accusations of infidelity and financial misconduct. Rebecca tried to fight the divorce initially, hiring a lawyer who promised to challenge my evidence. But when Marcus presented our documentation to her attorney, the man advised her to accept the settlement immediately. Your client has no legal ground to stand on, he told her. Mr. Roberts has enough evidence to send her to prison. She should consider herself lucky that he's only asking for the return of stolen funds. In the end, Rebecca was forced to liquidate her secret accounts, sell the jewelry and clothes she'd bought with stolen money, and return nearly every penny she'd taken. She also had to pay substantial legal fees and was placed on probation for the identity theft charges. Jake, meanwhile, decided that his relationship with Rebecca wasn't worth the legal trouble he was facing. He moved out of the neighborhood in February, leaving Rebecca to deal with the consequences of their actions alone. Apparently, when the excitement of sneaking around was gone, so was his interest in her. Rebecca ended up moving back in with her parents in Birmingham, a 40-year-old woman starting over with nothing but debt and regret. The last I heard, she was working as a sales associate at a department store, trying to rebuild her credit in her life. As for me, the divorce was finalized in April. I kept the house, my retirement funds, and my dignity. More importantly, I learned something valuable about myself. I'm stronger than I thought I was, and I deserve better than someone who would lie to me every day while planning to destroy my life. I've started dating again, slowly and carefully. I've also become something of an expert on identifying red flags in relationships, which has actually helped several friends navigate their own marital problems. It's amazing how much you learn about deception when you've lived through it. The house feels like home again. I've redecorated, updated some rooms, and even planted a new garden where Rebecca used to grow her flowers. Sometimes neighbors ask what happened to her, and I simply say we divorced and leave it at that. The full story isn't something I share with just anyone. But here's the interesting twist that even I didn't see coming. About 6 months after the divorce was final, I received a call from Rebecca's former employer. Apparently, the marketing firm was conducting an internal audit and had discovered that Rebecca had been embezzling money from client accounts as well. They wanted to know if I had any information that might help their investigation. I turned over copies of all the financial documents from our divorce case, and it turned out that Rebecca's pattern of theft extended far beyond what she'd done to me. She'd been stealing from her clients for over 2 years, using the same careful, systematic approach she'd used to drain our accounts. The company pressed charges, and Rebecca was sentenced to 18 months in prison for embezzlement. Jake, who had apparently helped her launder some of the money, received 6 months and substantial fines. Sometimes people ask me if I feel sorry for her, and the honest answer is complicated. I feel sorry for the woman I thought I married, the woman I loved for 14 years. But that woman might never have existed. The Rebecca who planned to destroy my life, who stole from me and lied to me every single day, who was prepared to leave me financially ruined and emotionally devastated. I don't feel sorry for her at all. I feel sorry for the time I wasted, the trust one gave so freely, and the future I planned that will never happen. But I don't regret finding out the truth, and I don't regret protecting myself. The best revenge, as they say, isn't revenge at all. It's living well, moving forward, and building a better life than the one that was stolen from you. And that's exactly what I'm doing. These days, when Christmas rolls around, I don't think about that terrible morning when my marriage officially ended. Instead, I think about it as the day I got my life back. The day I stopped being a victim and started being a survivor. And you know what? That's the best Christmas gift I ever could have asked for.